Hello. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Today is a great day for Canadians. As you know, Justin Trudeau promised that he was going to change the way that we voted in Canada. He said he was going to change what our vote means. This is the largest change to our democracy since our country was founded. But he also said at the same time that he wouldn't give Canadians a voice, and he wouldn't give Canadians a referendum. So we have fought from day one to make sure that Canadians' voices were heard in this discussion about electoral reform. And we said to Mr. Trudeau, if you're going to change the rules of democracy, then every Canadian should have a say. And today, Conservatives won that battle, but more importantly, Canadians won that battle because the Electoral Reform Committee came back to say that, in fact, yes, a referendum is necessary and Canadians should have a say if Mr. Trudeau wants to change our democracy. But sadly, we just heard that the Liberals are actually doubling down on this issue. They're saying that, in fact, no, they still will not support a referendum. Nous sommes clairs depuis les premiers jours. Si l'on veut changer les règles de la démocratie, chaque Canadien doit se prononcer. Nous sommes extrêmement contents qu'un comité parlementaire multipartite soutienne cette évidence. You know, when our MPs went out to talk to Canadians, if they supported a referendum on electoral reform, we heard overwhelming evidence. In fact, just our own MPs heard from 80,000 of our constituents that told us in no uncertain terms that they wanted a say in a referendum if we were going to change the rules of democracy. Il a été décevant de voir le gouvernement libéral refuser sans cesse de permettre aux Canadiens de s'exprimer par un référendum. C'est pourquoi nous espérons que le même message dans le rapport sera bien compris par le Premier ministre et la ministre de la réforme démocratique. It's time for Justin Trudeau to listen to Canadians and experts and all parties in the House, in fact, and recognize that a referendum is a legitimate democratic way to engage Canadians. For this government to continue to dismiss a referendum as a legitimate way to actually talk to Canadians really raises even more serious concerns for Canadians about their motivations. I also want to thank the members of the Electoral Reform Committee on all sides of the House. They worked very hard. Our members in particular, Scott Reid, Gerard Deltel, and Blake Richards, méritent tous d'être reconnus pour leur travail. Ils ont fait la fierté de leurs collègues au caucus avec leur détermination sur une question très complexe. They've done an amazing job for us, and every step of the way they have fought for Canadians to have a voice through a referendum. You know, this is an issue that all parties were passionate about, and to see all opposition parties come together to support a referendum is a great day for Canadians. Ces recommandations est une bonne nouvelle pour tous les Canadiens qui croient que nos institutions démocratiques doivent refléter la volonté de la population. It's good news for all Canadians today that the committee has recommended a referendum, and we're happy to take any questions. Do you want to make a statement?
Donc, si vous obtenez ce que vous voulez et qu'il y a un référendum, vous allez militer pour quelle option?
On verra bien. Aujourd'hui, c'est au gouvernement Trudeau à recevoir le message du comité multipartite. Dans le rapport du comité, on reconnaît qu'il y a besoin d'avoir un référendum, mais que ce soit la population du Canada qui décide, pas un chef de parti, pas un premier ministre, pas des députés, mais la population, que le statu quo fasse partie du bulletin et après on verra. Mais aujourd'hui, c'est le premier ministre Trudeau qui doit recevoir ce message-là. Ça prendra un référendum s'il veut changer la démocratie au Canada.
Alors, est-ce que les conservateurs vont militer pour le statu quo? On sait que le NPD veut militer pour...
Non, on a démontré de l'ouverture depuis le début, Mme Zeb. Ce qu'on veut, nous, l'essentiel, on veut que ce soit la population canadienne qui décide. Et aujourd'hui, le rapport du comité multipartite précise que ça prend un référendum. On verra. Non, on a dit qu'aujourd'hui, on attendait quelle serait la question. On verra qu'est-ce qu'il en sera. Mais pour nous, aujourd'hui, l'essentiel, c'est que s'il y a un changement à la façon de voter des gens au Canada, ce soit la population qui décide et on est fiers du résultat d'aujourd'hui.
Can I ask a bit different version of that question?
Sure.
If we have this referendum, the way the committee has it, which way are you voting personally? You'll get a vote. Will you vote for PR or the status quo?
Well, look, I think the issue today, I think a lot of people would argue that Canada's democracy is the envy of the world. It was Mr. Trudeau that said that there's something wrong with our democracy, that it's broken, that it doesn't represent us properly, and it's up to him to actually argue how he wants to change it and why he wants to change it. And what we've seen today after all of this work with all our members of Parliament that he's failed. He hasn't made any sort of argument to Canadians why he thinks we should change our democracy, how we should change it. The Liberals were completely absent. As you know, they have a dissenting report. But what the committee came together to say was that there needs to be a referendum. And within those recommendations, there's also a recommendation around proportional representation versus the status quo. So I think this is the great thing about this report is that it really reflects what Canadians have been saying. We know through all of our interactions, whether it's through polling or talking to our constituents, that people want a voice if we're going to change the rules of democracy. And what happened today is great because all the members of different parties, except the Liberals, put aside maybe things that they might have wanted, came together to say, look, at the end of the day, a referendum is required no matter what system the government decides they want to go with.
So
just to follow up a bit to that is typically the leader, the official opposition is going to hold the government to account when a government breaks a key campaign promise. That promise was the last FTP election.
Right.
Will you be that concerned if the Liberals break that promise? In other words, would you give them a pass if 2019 was another first past the post-election?
Well, this is just another, I think, broken promise by Justin Trudeau. Canadians, what concerned me the most about this promise is that he's the one that said there's something wrong with our democracy, that it's broken somehow, and that somehow he was going to fix it. But only he and his friends were going to decide what it looked like. And what we found out is they still don't know what it should look like. That's what happened in this report today. But the Canadians wouldn't get a voice. And so I think today is a great day for Canadians. It's really not a victory for the members of that committee. It's a victory for Canadians because Canadians said loud and clear, you can't change my democracy without giving me a say. And I applaud the committee for saying that, and I'm happy for Canadians that they came back with this. And I am shocked that after all the work that's been done, after all the credibility the Liberals put into this committee, they're now turning against those committee members and saying, no, in fact, this isn't a good process and Canadians shouldn't have a say. A referendum is much too complex. And look, I think that's an insult. It's an insult to Canadians to say to them that this is too difficult and complex of an issue for you to have a say in. And that's what they're saying. I think that's condescending and it's insulting. And today is a victory for Canadians who think that their voice matters and knows that their voice matters. And we're really happy that we helped with that result.
So in that report, there's a consensus on the referendum. There's also a consensus on proportional, some form of proportional vote. So are you agreeing with that as well?
Well, what the committee recommendation on proportional representation says that the experts that came to the committee recommended that this was, the experts that were there recommended this as a possible option. What I've said right from the beginning is that we have to have a referendum. So what I take out of this report is, look, if we moved forward with a referendum, including proportional, the members of the committee have recognized that that is what came out of all of the testimony. But most importantly, it has to be up against the status quo, and it also has to be in the form of a referendum. So we will leave that up to Canadians. And that's who should have a voice.
So the party will not have a position on what voting mode you would want in that referendum.
Again,
you will not be coming up with a position.
My position right from the beginning has been that it's not up to politicians to decide what form of democracy we have. It's Mr. Trudeau that said our democracy is broken. It is up to Canadians. We have fought for a referendum, and today we won, and that's important for Canadians.
The party will not have a position.
As I said, first and foremost, it's not up to politicians to decide what form. It has to be through a referendum. It has to be through a referendum. And so we'll see what Mr. Trudeau does. At this point, he has no opinion. He has no opinion on what it should look like. He has no opinion on whether, he has one opinion, that Canadians should not have a say. He does not support a referendum, and he does not support allowing Canadians' voices to be heard on something as basic and fundamental as what our vote means.
And your opinion is Canadians should have a say, but you don't want to have yourself a position on
there is no referendum in front of us. Right now, all we have is a Prime Minister who denies Canadians a voice. And look, we fought for this day to come. It's up to him now to make the case. He says our democracy is broken. It's up to him to make the case for what kind of system he thinks we should advocate for. But what we want, first and foremost, and I'm very happy to see it happen today, is for Canadians to have a voice.
Why did you put forward this motion on Cuba? What's your intent behind the motion?
The motion on Cuba, I know a lot of Canadians were embarrassed about the Prime Minister's comments about Fidel Castro. So it gives parliamentarians an opportunity to say, that's not how we feel. In fact, there's another view of Canadians. And so it gives Parliament an opportunity to say, in fact, we reject those comments. We recognize all of the human rights abuses that happened over the years. We want to see Cuba move forward with freedom and opportunity for the Cuban people. So it's both a condemnation of the human rights abuses under Fidel Castro and an aspirational message of the hope for the future for the Cuban people. I think, our members of Parliament, I think in a lot of Canadians were really offended by Mr. Trudeau's comments, and it gives us an opportunity to say, look, he doesn't represent all Canadians when he said that. Well, I think Canadians spoke pretty loud and clear about what they thought about Mr. Trudeau's comments on Fidel Castro. But thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.